Hi, I'm Catherine Pack, Senior Fellow and Deputy Director of the Australia Chair here at CSIS, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Pacific Policy Pulse. I am thrilled to be joined here today by the Honorable Randy Schriver. He is Chairman of the Board at the Institute for Indo-Pacific Security, and formerly he was the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Indo-Pacific Security Affairs at the DoD under the first Trump administration. Thanks, Randy, for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So you have the unique perspective of having worked on the Pacific and the broader Indo-Pacific for years inside government and now outside government. From your perspective, as you think about the region, how has the policy conversation around the Pacific evolved over the recent years?
Well, more recently, it's often discussed in the context of U.S.-China competition, and I think that's both beneficial because the competition is playing out in this space in very consequential ways. But it also it could be a problem if we only look at the region through that lens. And I know our Pacific Island partners are really at the center of this when they feel as though they're being treated as a pawn sometimes. And all they want to really hear about is what are you going to do for things we care about, climate change, illegal, illicit activities through our sovereign territory, illegal fishing, etc. So it's understandable that we have to look at it through this lens, but we can't only look at it through this lens.
As you consider all of these immense challenges facing the Pacific Islands region, what is an urgent policy consideration that you think DC policymakers should be thinking about right now?
Well, I think, again, looking at the environment through their eyes and understanding what their concerns and interests are, because these are perhaps longer-term issues in the minds of some, but they're quite urgent. You know, the climate crisis in this region is affecting sea levels, is affecting whether or not people can continue to inhabit some of these smaller Pacific islands. And so I think it's a matter of understanding that and seeing more urgency than we sometimes see in the United States. And look, we've got broad interests, and we can't devote all our time and attention to this region, but we better actually have the kind of urgency that they're asking for if we want to prevail across the board, our competition with China, having a free and open Indo-Pacific order that involves rule of law and international norms. This is really important that we understand the urgency that they're asking for and that we treat it as such.
So how do you think the Trump administration specifically, given it has withdrawn from the Paris Climate Agreement, should be thinking about talking about the Pacific Islands' security concerns over climate change?
Well, unfortunately, the issue has been politicized, and as you say, there's been actual steps taken that would demonstrate that the administration is less serious about the climate crisis. But actually, if you look at the Department of Defense, my old department, maybe ironically, they're the agency that cares about it the most because they have to deal with the adaptation challenges. We can't allow, for example, our facility in the Marshall Islands, Kwajalein, to go underwater. We can't allow, Arctic ice melt to start to change the dynamics of international shipping without having some thought to the role of the United States Navy as the ultimate guarantor of free flowing commerce in international waters. So it's actually the Department of Defense that thinks a lot about this. And so thinking about how we can be partners in addressing real challenges and real adaptation is probably the best we're going to get from the Trump administration. And I think that's actually not a bad baseline.
So just turning corners a little bit, what is a book that you're reading these days?
So I'm in the middle of a book called The Wide, Wide Sea by Hampton Sides, and it's about Captain James Cook's last voyage. A much written about topic, but this is an updated book and takes into perspective some of the regional views that have been passed through oral histories. And so far, so good. It's fascinating. Learning a lot.
I've read that book. It's fantastic. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for joining us on Pacific Policy Pulse.
Thanks for having me.